Hello Lakewood Math students, welcome to our video on approximating square roots. So what we're going to be doing in this lesson is working with square roots that are not perfect and estimating to one decimal place what the value of that square root is. So to recall, a number times itself is equal to the value, this number that's under the square root symbol. So we want to find a number times itself that equals 7. And when we look at our steps at the top, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start by identifying what perfect squares this square root is in between. Then we're going to write and label the perfect squares and their roots on these number lines. Then we're going to approximate the location of your square root somewhere on this number line. And then the fourth step is we're going to check it. So you can use your square root chart, your perfect squares, and remember that these values over here, the root numbers are on this side, and these are the answers to the square root of these numbers. So if we notice we have the square root of 1, 4, 9, we don't have a 7 because it's not a perfect square root. But we know that our value is going to be somewhere in between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. And what that means is that the answer is going to be somewhere between 2 and 3. So let's copy that on our number line. So our lower perfect square was the square root of 4, and our higher perfect square was the square root of 9. And the value of the square root of 4 was 2, and the value of the square root of 9 is 3. So we did our first step and our second step. Now we're going to approximate the location of your square root on the number lines. So what we can do is make our own number line ticks where they go up by 1, and we have the square root of 5, 6, 7, 8. So here our square root of 7 is right about here. It's not directly in the middle, it's leaning a little bit more towards the 9. So that means our value is going to be somewhere between 2 and 3. It's not going to be right in the middle, which would be 2.5. It's going to be closer to 3. So let's make a guess, and let's guess 2.6. So we just completed number 3. We approximated the location of the square root on the number line, but we have to check it. So remember, what we're trying to find is that this number times itself once is going to be about the value of 7. So you will not be able to have a calculator on this part of the test, which makes sense because we could just use a calculator to find the square root. So we'll have to do our math on the side by ourselves. And when I multiply 2.6 by 2.6, I get 6.76. And that is very close to 7. But to check and make sure, what we might want to do is go up one more decimal spot and multiply 2.7 times itself to see if we can get closer to 7. And when we multiply 2.7 by 2.7, we get a final value of 7.29. So which one of those values is closer to 7? Our 6.76 value is closer just by a couple of 1/100ths to 7. So we know that our best value for the approximation of the square root of 7 is 2.6. And that's our final answer. Let's try this with another number. The square root of 110. So let's look at our perfect square chart. And as we scan our square roots, we see that the square root of 110 is going to be between the square root of 100 and the square root of 121. And if we look at those root values, the square root of 100 is 10 and the square root of 121 is 11. So let's fill those in on our number line. We have the square root of 100, 121. Our root value, our answer is 10, and our answer is 11. Now, the square root of 110, our second step is we're going to approximate, or our third step, I'm sorry, is we're going to approximate where 110 would lie on this number line. And it's going to be right about in the middle, a little bit closer to 121. And what you can do is subtract 121 from